specialist of northeastern Oklahoma. Today, I would like to talk to you about a confusing food group, the breads and cereals. So what's the big fuss about breads and cereals? If they grew 2,000 years ago and civilizations lived on them, what's the problem today? What's making Americans obese? The right answer comes from talking to a dietitian. And so let me explain to you some confusing concepts. Okay, so years ago, grain grew like this. It grew wild, 2,000 years ago. And if you see this, the heads of wheat are a little bit smaller. From that to this, there have been 25,000 hybridizations. And so in doing that, we've genetically modified a grain that was very good for us. So why did we do that? Well, to make bread lighter and whiter. We thought we were enriching it. So a loaf of bread that says Nature's Own honey wheat. First ingredient is unbleached enriched flour. And then it has about 20 things, some of it you can't even pronounce. What happens to this when it goes into your GI tract? Okay, our GI tract is 26 feet long. We can pack 60 pounds of this goo in there. We build an inner tube around the body because our body has an inflammatory response to it. So, I don't recommend honey wheat. I don't recommend anything that says enriched wheat flour. So, how many of you think you've got the answer in 100% whole wheat? I hear so many times when I'm in the homes, but I eat whole wheat. Okay, want to try that? What do you think whole wheat is and what do you think it does? Well, it doesn't squish down quite as much, does it? It says goodness in nature, okay? Will it come back to life? Kind of, sort of. But is that all there is? Whole wheat. Let me show you another one. 100% whole grain. Do you think that that's better? So when it says enriched wheat, and it says whole wheat, and then it says whole grain, what are we talking about? The grain, the head of the grain looks like this. It has a germ portion right here. This germ portion is very important. And then it has the endosperm portion right here. And then it has bran. Enriched flour is only the endosperm. Whole wheat flour is the outer bran layer that has fiber that kind of rotoroots the GI tract, so that's a good thing. And the starch that fuels your body, supposedly. And then it doesn't have the germ portion. So what's in the germ portion of the grain? The germ portion is the life-giving part of the grain. It's the part that houses 86% of the nutrition. And so what do these nutrients do? They tell your body how to decode and use that food. So when you don't have the body understanding what it's supposed to do, the body has an inflammatory response. And it says good, bad, good, bad. So what's it going to do? It's going to squash it up, wrap it in fat. It's going to root it and get it out, because look, this guy grew back. But it doesn't have the how to use and process it through the body coding information. So this is the better choice in the grocery store, is the whole grain bread. If it doesn't say whole grain, it isn't whole grain. My other pet peeve when my kids were growing up is when I had a lot of chemicals and additives that I couldn't recognize. And so what do? Me personally, I take whole grains like this and I grind them into flour and I make them into a loaf of bread that of course isn't going to squish down in your GI tract, and your body gets 86% more nutrients because it knows how to take in that information and break down that bread. So 100% whole grain, and I prefer it not be hybridized 25,000 times and genetically modified. So If the grains are a problem and our body's still having an inflammatory response, and we've gone to the 100% whole grain version, we've made our own, we've left out the chemicals and the toxins, what else can we do? Well, one of the problems in some of the grains is the gluten, which is the protein compound. And so the gluten, some people cannot break it down. They have an intolerance to it, or it, even worse yet, leaks outside the GI tract. So when it leaks outside the GI tract and gets an inflammatory response started throughout the body, that's when the real problem starts. So again, whole grain if you can, gluten-free, try that next. And then if you have to eliminate the wheat as one of the grains, then what do you go to next? Well, there's some gluten-free grains. So some gluten-free grains, you can actually buy oats that are gluten-free, and actually you can make an overnight cereal. Well, why wouldn't I buy what's out there on the shelf? How many of you have seen this guy? What's the #1 ingredient? It says whole grain wheat. Sounds good, right? Second ingredient is sugar. Do many of us need more sugar in our diet? Most of us consume over 127 pounds of sugar a year, so I'm not thinking sugar as a second ingredient next to that whole grain wheat is a good idea. Then we have rice flour, we have canola, we have fructose, yet another sugar, we have maltodextrin, and then we have the cinnamon that's in the name way on down the list. So when somebody says, oh, my kids have cereal for breakfast, I about have a heart attack. And then they say, well, look at this one. This is heart healthy. It's Cheerios. Cheerios are made from oats. Would that be better? Oats are lower in gluten, and there's even some gluten-free oats, but first ingredient, whole grain oats. So we've learned whole grain and we've learned oats. And oats are really heart healthy. But what happens next? There's cornstarch, and then the third ingredient is sugar. And so I do have a problem with sugaring kids up and sending them to school. So would this be better? This says honey bunches of oats made with whole grain. And look at that, it's got some blueberries. #1 ingredient, whole grain wheat. #2 ingredient, sugar. Do you have a problem with sugaring your kid up and sending them to school? I do. Okay, so now we're back to what do we do for breakfast? My recommendation is old-fashioned oats, not the kind that comes in the package with sugar. Okay, lots of these microwave packages have sugar as a second ingredient. Same problem with the cereals. So what I'd like to show you today is how easy it can be to make overnight oats and still make the school bus. So in here we have a jar and it has 1 cup of oats. I'm going to add 1 cup of dairy alternative. If you use milk and it doesn't bother you, God bless you, use milk. If you have to have lactose-free milk, they make that because some people are intolerant of either the protein or the casein that's actually in milk because again, we've heated it, we've pasteurized it, so we've adulterated it so that we're having an allergic response in our body to it. There are a lot of dairy alternatives. There's hemp milk, oat milk, almond milk, cashew milk, and coconut milk. So all we do is stir this up in here, and if you want to, you can add chia seeds, and that actually helps with constipation, and we've talked about that in some other videos. And then you can add Greek yogurt so that you get your morning protein. For children who are over 1, we can add honey or maple syrup. Honey is a fructose, so it's a single molecule, not like sucrose, which is a double molecule. Sucrose is glucose and fructose together. It's a hard chemical bond that's man-made, that's refined with lead. Our bodies have problems with that. So fructose would be a better sweetener. Agave is a good sweetener. Maple syrup's an okay sweetener. My sweetener of choice is sweet leaf stevia drops. It comes in all kinds of flavors. You can just go with the clear, or you can go with vanilla. You can add vanilla extract and then the clear, or you can just buy the stevia drops in the vanilla cream. So you overnight these. So maybe 2 hours is all it really takes, but it's easy if you make it the night before and they're going to get up and go to school. And so I've overnighted these, and see how they're oatmeal now. So that's better than driving through McDonald's for your oatmeal. And there's all kinds of ways to top it out. My favorite, Almond Joy. So I can add a little almond extract, and I can add chocolate chips and toasted coconut. So anybody want an Almond Joy for breakfast? There you have it. Okay, how about another one? In the fall, I love Honeycrisp apples, raisins, and cinnamon. You can even add walnuts to that if you want to. But there you go. To me, that's a wonderful breakfast. 320 calories. These have chia seeds. So if you hadn't had a bowel movement lately, this would be a great one to use. Let's dump some brain food in there. The blueberries. Fresh blueberries add fiber and antioxidants. They're actually supposed to make you smarter. So there we have Blueberry Delight with chia seeds. And lastly, this was a tie because I didn't know what to do. I love strawberries. I love all kinds of berries. You could have just filled it up with berries. But some kids need oatmeal to taste like peanut butter. So what I did, I stirred in PB2, which is actually a low-fat peanut butter. If your child is underweight or you want to gain weight, you can use any of the nut butters. There's cashew butter, there's hazelnut butter, there's almond butter. Any nut butter layered in there and then topped with some bananas will make a child that doesn't eat breakfast or an adult that's on the go happy and well-fueled in no time. So any of these or anything that you can dream up can go in this whole grain delicious breakfast jar for 320 calories. I hope I've cleared up the confusing myths surrounding the breads and the cereal group. We have 5 food groups that I cover. 1 is protein, 1 is dairy, 1 is fruits, vegetables, and the one that we shy away from talking about is the breads and cereals. So I'm a registered dietitian with nutrition specialist. I hope I've at least educated you a little bit today so that you can make better choices in your home and in the grocery store. Thank you.